Dank Ferrick, and welcome to Sith Happens Star Wars podcast. I'm Eric the Dadalorian, and thank you guys for hanging out with us again. Now I'm joined by my disciple of darkness, my brother. You were my brother, Matty Ice, everybody. Black Series Daily Desk.
Happy to lead you into darkness, you bantha blasters. Very excited. we got a big Tuesday, guys. We're super excited. We're a little off the cuff today. It's been a little busy. You might notice we're missing our triad in the Force. Yes. Triad in the Force. Our dear friend, I am Not a Committee, aka Anthony, aka Ant. He abandoned us tonight. It's for a good reason. He's at a Creed concert.
Because I'm 6 feet from the edge and I'm singing.
Yeah, I was thinking more the when you are with me, I'm free. Guys, this whole episode is just going to be Eric and I singing the only 30 seconds we know from Creed songs. So buckle the fuck up.
This is my time to shine, baby.
Dropped my phone.
Right? You know what?
Yeah,
let me go get my guitar. We'll do this, all right?
Anyway, here's Wonderwall.
All right. So, but Matt, you're kind of taking the charge on this first bit of the show, which I'm excited to talk about. Dive in, bro.
Yeah. I mean, this is, again, remember Rebuild the Podcast, everybody? We're doing a little bit of that. Eric usually takes the lead. We're passing back and forth. You know, Ant doesn't write the script, but we're just discombobulated without him. So, as I always say, when I'm the one in the lead, I've got a good feeling about this. Anyway, so what I want to kick off with was today we got some pretty cool news from Skeleton Crew continuing to stoke the fire over at Disney, which is fantastic. We got the episode directors list for each of the 8 episodes. And I have to say they've mentioned some of these people are working with the episodes. I'm not going to go episode by episode. I'm going to do just some of the ones that I think are really interesting. But there's some really there's some choices here that I'm pretty excited about. It makes me wonder tonally, in the show, and I think you'll get that as I go through the directors, tonally in the show, there may be episode by episode. I don't know if it's depending on the world they go to, the vibe of the general episode. I think it could be weird and a little disjointed, or it could be really cool. You know, I do like the idea as we go through this, when you listen to the pedigree of some of these directors, I like the idea that maybe some of the episodes will look and feel different depending on the world. And, I'm all about connectivity and that narrative thread. So if that can get maintained, but, they kind of change it up a little. Again, it's that sense of wonder we've talked about in the show. So I'm going to kick it off. The first episode and the finale are John Watts. I think we've talked about this in the podcast ad nauseum, but I think it's excellent. I mean, when you think about the heart, first of all, if you look at the diversity of what he's done, right? He started out doing movies like Cop Car, like indie dramas with Kevin Bacon about 2 kids that steal a car from a police officer, a little bit of danger, very low budget, and then into the heart that the Spider-Man movies had, and the way he was able to bring home the last Spider-Man movie, No Way Home, bringing in the OG Spider-Man, making those movies, I think it's 9 movies, 10 movies, all be one consecutive story. Yeah. And
which, firstly, off topic, but bringing all those together was probably the greatest decision in Marvel history, in my opinion, because I love you, Toby.
I agree. Honestly, I was not a Garfield guy, but after that movie, I was a Garfield guy. I think the thing about it, and it was funny, the first time I saw it, I was with a buddy, and I just started dating my wife. And I came to her apartment right after. I was we were hanging out. Or something would be 5:36, 9:30, and she's my wife doesn't really care about spoilers. And I came to her apartment, and I was literally reenacting the movie and crying. I had a few whiskeys, I was really having a time. And it's he brought that, and he brought some of that in the sequel, in the second Spider-Man. I think more. But I'm so encouraged by one, that this is his show, but then two, that there's the potential for that last episode. Is this a kid's movie? Maybe they say it's a kid's story, but not necessarily for kids.
It's going to be a good mixture, is the thing, man.
I do. Yeah.
We're going to get a good mixture of shit. We're going to get a good mixture of kid stuff in there. We're I think kids in between that, probably anywhere between, probably starting anywhere between 8 to 12 are going to be able to enjoy this. And then at the same time, adults like us who have loved Star Wars our entire lives are going to be able to live this new story in Star Wars and have a good time with it too.
Yeah, no, I agree. And they can really, I think it's going to really, I just have this feeling it's going to bring it home in that final episode. And it's going to be we're gonna get on the cast right after to do our like recap, and there's gonna be some
I
tears.
cannot wait.
I just have a feeling there's gonna be some tears. Maybe we'll go viral. The fat man will be crying. I would love that. Me, Eric's jacked, but but anyway, so yeah,
Well,
I'm excited about that.
Getting a little fluffy since my injury, but I'm still maintaining the weightlifting at least. So
Yeah, you got it. It's upper body, brother. But yeah, I think that Bryce Dallas Howard's coming back, which is awesome.
bro,
She has cinematic
let me
quality.
just tell you, I am so freaking stoked for that. Like, out of all the directors that we've had for The Mandalorian so far, and like, I absolutely love every episode that Bryce Dallas Howard has done. Every single one has blown me away.
Yeah.
And the way that she introduces characters in the episodes that she did, like Bo-Katan, for instance, absolutely loved it. Phenomenal. And I think we're going to get big reveal in her episodes. We tend to get big reveals, I think. So I think we're going to get that again with Skeleton Crew. And I'm super excited for that. And I think she's going to be directing episode 6. So that is
not quite
yes. It's the one that like kind of sets up the ending of the series, realistically.
Agreed. Yeah.
So like, I don't know if the last 2 episodes, they might be conjoined like on the same one. I'm not positive. I haven't heard, or I haven't done the math on it, so to say. But that episode 6 typically sets up that really the big ending, so to say, like Mando, where the Dark Troopers took Grogu, for instance.
Yeah.
That sets up the whole everything. So I think it's going to be a really big episode that she does, and I'm stoked to see what she does with this new Star Wars.
Agreed. And if you look at like Mando season 3, right, that they did, that was really goofy. Episode 6, I enjoyed it. We don't need to get into how people felt. And then episode 7, there was like a rising action, right? Like, up, and they hit that climax that kind of started for the descending towards the back half, like really last like 5 minutes of that episode, the finale. But I could see that happening. But I think you've got 2 other directors, the guy who did Twisters and whoever's directing the Thunderbolts, which I'm excited for. That's cool. Blockbuster directors. But there are 2 directors that I really want to bring up. Actually, 3 technically. Okay. And the reason why I want to bring them up is there is the opportunity here, I think, to see something really exciting. So the first director is doing episodes 2 and 3. Sorry if I'm looking down on the cast, everybody. I'm like reading the directors.
We're both
I don't
looking
have
at
2
the picture on our
Yeah,
phone.
I was gonna say
we are going to throw
you-
this up on the screen after after Matt and I do this. The last episode that we did, we apologize. We said we were going to throw some things up on screen. We're kind of filming the podcast on a new platform, but we kind of figured out the kinks, so to say. So we will throw up the photo that we got for this one this time. I promise.
When we finally figure out the kinks, let's go back and look at every time we said we were going to throw up a photo and not put it up, and with no context be like, hey, everybody, here's the photos we promised to throw up, and then just put the reference to the episode like a comic book.
I probably should.
But anyway, so the first director that I'm really excited about is doing 2 and 3, and it's David Lowery. And if you don't know David Lowery's pedigree, he did The Green Knight. I don't know, Eric, have you seen The Green Knight?
I actually haven't. I was going to ask you, like, what is that one? Because it sounds familiar, but I don't know.
It was an indie movie that was like I loved it, but it's one of those movies that I saw once, and it's very bizarre, like in a cool way. So it's a retelling of the Canterbury tale, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, or Sir Gawain, however you want to say it. But the thing about the movie that was really interesting was it is a dark movie. It is a weird movie, and they really kind of do some things with that tale. Yeah, it was very weird. It's one of those things I've seen twice or once or twice. Like, can't really remember, but I think I've seen it more than once. And the thing about it is every shot, like, watch the trailer. Like, seriously, anyways, just watch the trailer for The Green Knight. Every shot is like an ominous. It could be a still from the trailer. It felt like the guys, it's the Green Knight on it. This guy on a quest to kill the Green Knight. The premise is on Christmas Day, the Green Knight shows up to this king's castle and says, and starts threatening them. And the king's son, who's like a ne'er-do-well, cuts the head off the Green Knight. And the head like speaks and is like, in 1 year's time, you have to come to where I am, which is like all the way across the land, right? And then you have to fight me. And the son is really kind of like, I'm a rich kid, whatever. And this was like a real lucky thing. So he doesn't even know if he's going to go. And if he doesn't go, like, his kingdom is doomed. But if he does, he's like the new ruler. It's a whole thing. Yeah. And it's all about his journey across this land. All the weird things that happen. Like, there's a shot that I remember where, like, they don't really play a part in it. It's just like the awe, the wonder. It's on like the edge of a cliff, and there are mountains, giants taller than the cliff that are like front of these mountains, like walking by. And you were just like, this is ominous and epic and just something really different
Yeah.
when I saw it. And I think like I'm really curious if there's some way they're going to do the cinematography in it, if there's something with one of those worlds. One of the things that I thought was really cool is when you watch the trailer is it feels very cinematic. Like it feels like
Okay.
a lot of budget was put into making this feel like a big show. Like I rewatched the trailer twice before this. I can never pick a shot these people directed, but
Yeah.
I think he's going to bring a real element of epic awe. Like I would be surprised after watching that movie if there wasn't some moments where you're just like, God damn, is that a pretty shot? Or like, wow, that was well framed. Not to say John Watts can't do that or Bryce Dallas Howard,
Yeah.
but the way this person's movie that I saw looks is so different that it could be a really like, oh, we've talked about how we kind of like that this feels a little bit more like Guardians or Goonies in the trailer,
Yeah.
because like it makes Star Wars feel a little different. It's a big galaxy, and I
Yeah,
think
definitely.
that this is like a really like some of the director choices here are starting to show you that's I think what Disney's thinking. I mean, the Thunderbolts director is doing this also. If you watch
Yeah.
that trailer and even the new Captain America trailer, it feels a little bit like a rebrand of Marvel, a little bit grittier, a little bit more action, thriller, and this feels like a little more whimsy wonder, which is like regardless of the tone of the early Star Wars movies, that's what it is. So
Yeah.
I think
I
it's
mean,
going to be
for
cool. and I
how
think
long have you and I said the same thing? Star Wars is a kid's fable about wizards with laser swords.
Absolutely. So let's bring it. But I think the one that we're going to want to talk about the most
Yes.
is episode 4, The Daniels. And the Daniels directed Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is to me one of the most impressive movies I've seen in the last 10 years.
And this is where I am gonna, like, I have to confess, so to say, I have not seen it. I will say I have like heard nothing but good things about it, and it is kind of like one of those movies on my watch list. Having 2 kids, it's a little bit busy trying to watch the wrong movies
And it's long.
occasionally because I'm just getting bluey and blippy rammed down my throat most of the time. So
Are any of those guys directing this? No, I'm kidding.
I highly doubt
We've got
that.
the creator of Dora the Explorer. But I think Everything Everywhere All
Donde
at Once, if you-
está la skeleton crew?
Yeah. But I think that no habla, je parle français un peu. I think that you haven't seen it. If you see it, I recommend going in as closed eyed as you can.
Okay.
Right? I think it's like I went to see it in theaters. I knew nothing about it, and I was like, "What am I watching?"
Yeah.
And it's like they mix so many genres. It's got a Matrix vibe, not in the sense that it's like the Matrix. It's that, remember the Matrix mashed up like cyberpunk and sci-fi thriller and apocalyptic future and kung fu. That's not all in this. There's certainly things I just said that are in this, but I won't spoil it for you. But it was just so different and wild and such a mashup of genres that it really felt fresh. And like a lot of times, I always say when things are a trope, right? Like if you're watching a movie and they have a really good kung fu scene, you've seen stuff like that before. It's not a trope. It is a trope, but it's not bad to be a trope if it's done well. And what these guys executed so well was taking these tropes and bringing them together. And if you think about the things we're talking about, like we keep saying, like the Goonies, a kids movie, a sci-fi fantasy, a pirate movie. I'm going to show some stuff, and we know Brutus is a pirate captain. These guys, the Daniels brothers, have the potential to bring all that together. Or not all, and like really make it feel like its own unique thing. And I love that Watts is setting the tone. Then you get this art house director, and then episode 4, you get these other 2 sort of indie directors, because it's a very big budget, like like indie film, Everything Everywhere. But to really like set this universe up before you get into the back half, and you start having some directors that are doing current blockbusters, Bryce Dallas, and you close it out with Watts. And like I think that like the directors, if you look at this list of directors' choices, you can tell that Disney feels all in on this. I think it's not a coincidence that it's coming out around the holidays, like one of their blockbuster movies. It's not a coincidence that it took 4 years to get this to where they wanted it to, whether that had to do with Watts' schedule because you had the Spider-Man movie come out or whatever. I really think the time it's taken, you're going to see that come to life on the screen, from the script to the filming, to the acting, to the structure. Like I don't know, like Acolyte we were excited for. Of course, we were pumped for Bad Batch. This to me, like I'm giddy and I'm excited.
That's
and
how
I feel like
man. Like this is a big one. That's how it feels. Like this is a big one.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not going to be disappointed. So, I mean,
No.
that's really all I have for this segment. But,
Yeah.
and then Eric will go back to taking over and my madmanness will sink back into the darkness, my scruffy nerf hurting.
Hey,
But
we gotta keep you in check, bro.
yeah, I feel you, dude. I gotta keep those binary cuffs on me. But but we can go in, but like, that's it. Like, I don't think, at least for you, me, and then I'll speak for Ant, based on the way we love Star Wars, I think that we are going to be so delighted about this that, I mean, like, if I don't like the first, I mean, the first 2 episodes for our crew are always like, yes, all the potential. So if the real time is going to tell when we get into like 3 and 4 and see the true pacing. But
well, if
I think,
hopefully Disney, because I always looked at it this way, because Mando season 2 came out right around Christmas time, if I believe correct, right?
yeah, it did. I think
okay, that's what I thought. Because I always looked at that like
came out, and the rumor was that it.
I was gonna say, just I'm looking at it this way.
That's why it was coming
that was I looked at that as like a little bit of a Christmas present because Mando season 2, in my opinion, was some of the best Star Wars in ever. Period.
100%.
The ending of season 2 of Mandalorian is one of the few things that have actually made me cry when I'm watching it.
Oh yeah, all killer, no filler. Like,
yes,
do you ever tell you the
100.
story? I would tell you the story, like, I tell everybody in the cast, like, when I was like 4 years old, my dad got me into Star Wars, couldn't watch G.I. Joe, wanted to see something cool. And when I go home, I watch the shows with my parents and like binge. So we'd seen the front half of that, and I showed my dad the back half. And he was just crying. And at the end, he got done, and he goes, and he never talks about this. Like, my dad, periodically, he doesn't understand what we're talking about. So, like, he's not, he'll listen to the cast sometimes. Like, he listened to our episode with Ardashir, right? But he was like, that was a really good payoff. Like, that was the carrot at the end of that stick. And I was like, yeah. And there was like a pause. He composed himself. He's like, can you believe I showed this to you when you were 4 years old? And it was like full circle. Like, I started crying. Like, Luke Skywalker. Spoiler alerts. Throw up the spoiler hub thing. But that Luke Skywalker was in it. If you don't know that by now, I don't know why you're listening to this podcast. But that's
you're well past spoiler at this point. You're ignorant.
Yeah, it was Plo Koon, but
they tried
which
that.
is who was originally that was the red herring for them. Yeah, but yeah, no, I mean, awesome, and that's, I think, like, let's get it. That's all I'll say.
Absolutely.
I feel like we're just gonna be gassing ourselves up for 3 more weeks or 2
Yeah,
more
like,
weeks.
I know
we got like 15
me,
days.
you, and Ant are just going to be so. I think me, you, and Ant are just going to be so happy with what we get from this. To be honest with you, like anywhere, the fandom menace is still out in force because I'm still seeing just lots of people saying stupid shit. And
I ignore it.
Yeah, and that's where I've gotten at this point. After Acolyte, with all that stupidness, it was just like, at this point, whatever. You cannot please everyone, and like, excuse me. We've talked about it before, man. You can't please everyone, and even when you get something great, like, you and I were not big fans of a lot of parts of Acolyte, but overall we were like, wasn't that bad, pretty good. I think this is going to be something. Yeah, and I think this is going to be one that all of us are just going to be like, that was awesome, loved every second of it.
I think the first night that we do the recap at the end of the episode, people are going to think we're all on meth. Like, I think it's just going to be like
people are going to be like, these dudes just straight snorted a line of coke off of their desk before they shot this podcast.
Spice, we're addicted to spice. But no, but I think that's like, I love that's let the spice flow, jumping genres. Anyway, yeah. So let's continue to get everybody pumped. But Shia Halud, but yeah, I mean, more to be excited about. I know we have the Gift of the Galaxy, and we're getting, everybody knows, we're getting a little bit advanced notice now from Hasbro coming up in the world. So, we're not news, like, we don't post that early. We're not one of those sites, but we have it, and every Tuesday for the next couple weeks when it comes out, we will talk about it. Yeah, maybe, God willing, we'll start an alliance. Kick it off, brother.
But yes, guys. So we had another round of Gift the Galaxy today, which, for those of you who might not be following what that is every Tuesday Hasbro is dropping new releases all the way up until Christmas, I believe it is, of their new releases in Black Series, Vintage Collection, you name it, they're putting new stuff out there. We just had our drops today, so we're going to kind of go over those and kind of like give you the price range and what it is and everything. And the first thing that we did have today was the Black Series FX lightsaber for Baylan Skoll, which I was a little bit surprised that they did Baylan Skoll in this one. to tell you the truth. It wasn't one that I expected, not one I'm disappointed with by any means. I only have one of the FX sabers, and it's a fun saber. It's definitely like a good collectible, and I will say like Disney is really good about the hilts on these. Now, the saber itself, the lights are like compared to like some of the Profis and the other high end ones that you can get with like some of the companies I've gotten them from. But I will say their hilts are like pretty immaculate, which is for me kind of one of the more important pieces since I'm a just display collector. So like more times than not, like mine are just displayed on my wall with the hilts and everything. So I think it looks fantastic. It's going to be, you have to excuse me while I pull it up here. It's going to be going to pretty much all of the major retailers online, so you shouldn't have any issues trying to find it or anything like that. And it's going to be going up for a total of, pull it up here just a second. I do apologize. Yes. It's going to be going up for $249.99, which is pretty like it's really not like too different than most of the other FX sabers and everything like that. And I will say I'm glad that they're putting different sabers out there and not just like keep reissuing like Luke or something like that, to tell you the truth. I was particularly a big fan of Balin's saber when Ahsoka came out.
Yeah, so cool. It's a knight saber. It's a real like knight, and there was a longer blade. He's taller.
Yes.
I was gonna say to you, first of all, you didn't look when I was going, my ring light went out when I closed off on that. Like it ran out of battery.
Oh, yeah.
But I think these are entry level lightsabers. There are people that don't want profis. There are people that just want what you said, the hilt. And I think that's why these are perfect. If I collected lightsabers, I would go for these. And it looks really cool.
And I love how it's something like, you know, what we were talking about, how it's bigger, right? I love when the weapons from like this universe, the Star Wars universe, correlate back to stuff from our own handheld weapons that we had within our own history. Balin's, for example, is a perfect example because it's basically, you know, obviously I'm not 100% sure on this. It's modeled off of like a claymore, honestly, which for those of you who don't know what that is, that's the sword that William Wallace would use, the giant sword in Braveheart. And that's essentially the vibe we got off this, because it's a giant hilt that he's using on the lightsaber, and it's a very long lightsaber blade. So it's really cool how that correlates. They have similar things too with the Ahsoka Tano's lightsabers, where they're modeled off the Japanese katana, and the shorter one, which I can't remember what the shorter sword in Japanese culture is called, but I really love when they do that, where they bring in like the different types of sabers and make it like the swords and stuff that we had within our own history, so to say.
My tech support fixed my ring lights. You guys all just see me adjusting it. Yeah, God bless my wife. Jen is the best.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I think that is really cool, and I'm super stoked for the people that are going to get it, and I look forward to seeing people open it online.
Absolutely.
As I stick to my figures, and I got one helmet, as we all know, and I got couple Wish helmets, and that's where I'd pick those up. Let's go Crosshair. But yeah, and the second toy was cool too.
Yes, and that's the one we are going over now. That is the Star Wars The Vintage Collection IG-12 Grogu and Anzellan. Now it's basically just a vintage collection of the Black Series model that came out a couple months back. Essentially, like the exact same things. The Anzellan Grogu fits in the IG-12 unit, everything. So it's like. It wasn't one that I expected or thought that we particularly needed in vintage collection, but I do think it's really cool to get it in there.
I do too.
And for a vintage collection one, I'm gonna put up a bunch of the photos of it in here. It is actually very, very detailed for a vintage collection. I will say Hasbro has gotten much better with their vintage collection stuff, where it looks like way more detailed than it used to, and it's getting towards, it's not quite there yet, but it's towards like what Black Series looks like. And I do like the vintage collection, like collecting the vintage collection, because it is a little bit on the cheaper side, and as an in-box collector, the way I display them, it's pretty nice. You know, you've seen my wall before of all vintage collection stuff, so I'm excited about it. I think it looks pretty cool, and I think it'll be a nice little addition to anybody's collection, honestly.
Yeah, for me, they're going to be doing a new vintage collection Han Solo they haven't shown yet for A New Hope. And, I desperately, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this when I show my collector's corner, I desperately want like an updated Han Solo and some of the new sculpt principles. And the way it seems to be working is when one gets it, it may take 6 months to a year, but the other
Yeah.
collection gets it between TBS and TVC. So I'm hoping for that as well. I think this one's like a little less exciting than the lightsaber. I mean, I'm not a vintage collection guy, so if people are,
Yeah.
I just feel like, but I'm going to be honest, I got a good photo out of the Black Series one, and when I was in hand, the updates to the sculpt and the mobility of the IG droid, it made me be like, let's also get Empire Strikes Back 50th. We've got like 6 years. But when that happens, let's get an updated IG-88 with that mold, or maybe sooner.
Oh my God,
now that
please.
the mold exists, but that would be
You know
awesome.
why.
And then, yeah, I mean, you've seen me. I think did I show that on the collector's corner? But it's worth that figure is more worth it than me just getting it to be a completist for opening.
I don't know if you've
Way
ever
more
actually
worth it
shown
than I
that
thought it
one.
was. So I think
I've shown my
TVC fans-
IG-88 from
maybe
the
I'll do it
archive,
next week.
but I don't think you've shown yours.
Yeah,
So okay,
yeah.
well that's next week.
I'll do
I
it
guess.
next week. I think. Yeah, cool.
Okay. But
There you go. A
all
little
right, well,
preview.
yes. And
Something
that
to be
wraps up-
thankful for.
Yeah, that's our episode next week, the Thanksgiving episode, guys. So,
What are
but
we
yeah,
thankful
that
for
wraps
in
up
Star
this
Wars?
week's Gift the Galaxy, and like I said, really great stuff. The last 2 weeks of reveals have been great. The 2 Black Series double packs we got last week were awesome. The lightsaber and the vintage collection this week are really great. So I got a feeling they're going to be bouncing back and forth between revealing Black Series and then TVC and maybe some sabers and stuff like that, because it's kind of like what it seems like. But overall, super excited for more reveals. Check back next week to see more of them. But we're going to get into what we currently have now, because Matt and I, we're kind of doubling up. We had a little bit of a shorter episode this week, so we're doubling up on our collector's corner, what we're going to do and everything. So, Matt, I'm going to let you go first. You know, I guess I'll let you take over again against my better judgment.
We'll do both of ours at a time since mine are connected. But as I said last week, I ordered Jadna Nawad and Nawood and soon to be a household name and Brutus. And I want to show these figures off. First, I'll show my little Jude Law guy. It is a great figure. I'm going to take the hood off for people that aren't watching. It comes with a removable plastic hood. Taking
Same
that off
thing
now.
on my TVC too, actually.
Yeah, it's not great. I'm going to be honest, but the figure itself in hand, I really wanted it so I could have like a Jude Law action figure. And the figure itself, when in person, it doesn't look that much like Jude except for certain angles, but where I'm showing it on screen here, it really looks like Jude. I've seen there's an inconsistency in the sculpt. Landspeeder Luke's said he looked more like Jude than some of the ones he saw. Mine looks on camera like his did. So that might be the case. Now, overall, just a great figure. I'm really into, let me try to get this on camera. The blasters that I've been shitting on these for like months, but if you look in the middle, there's like a cylinder, so I'm like, oh, maybe they shoot more than once. I just want a good shootout. But I think I love
blaster.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff on this figure. He's got like a pirate's coat. It's got like the gold inlays.
Yeah.
I think that overall, it's just like a really cool looking figure, and I think that it's gonna be a really cool character. I'm a little worried that he's gonna be a Jedi. I don't think we need that in this, but you know what? I'm ready to be surprised. Going in flat, no expectation, well, a lot of expectations, but no, like I want to be entertained. But this figure is great. They've really figured out it might just be this figure, but with the soft goods, you can see that it kind of comes apart a little, not apart, but there's separations, which allows for like really increased mobility. And I think it is just a cool figure. And then my second figure is the one I think everybody's waiting for. That is my main man, Brutus. I bought him to be a Cantina alien backup, and just because it's a cool figure, like, you know, but I think he's going to really make an impression, and then that's going to be a thing that's not. This figure is fucking insane. Like, that is the technical term. It comes with 5 blasters that all have holsters, like a pirate would have on his rig. Some are like flintlocks. Some look like
version
blasters.
of a Star Wars Blackbeard, basically.
And I mean, you look at this and the sculpting and the construction. My one minor gripe, and this is a photographer's gripe, is that the blasters all kind of lean to the right. So if you look, his like chest piece comes up a little high when you've got him aiming. But I took a photo, and it was up the other day on my page, Black Series Daily Desk, and it wasn't really noticeable. But this is like a figure I was really excited about and didn't let me down.
That's going to be a hot one. That's going to be extremely hard to get for people like me in the stores.
Yeah, go if you're an online shopper, it is on Hasbro Pulse. I checked this morning. So I recommend, and this is Tuesday, this will probably be out Wednesday. I recommend when you hear this tomorrow, go to Hasbro Pulse or whoever has them, and they're not on Amazon yet, and get at least Brutus. I think you'll find the Jude Law figure. I'm not saying that name again. I think you'll find the Jude Law figure. Is also a very pleasant surprise. I've been messing around with him and trying to get some photo ideas, even more than Brutus. It's pretty versatile, and I think it's just a really cool kind of heroic pirate rogue type of figure.
Yeah.
which I'm enjoying. I
Those
think
those two are going to be the hot ones from that collection of the line that's released so far to get. I think the kids, I think, are going to be a little bit more readily available. Where it's, I think maybe
yes, they
not as
will.
much.
Last
Oh
week
my God, let's
callback.
not do this again. But no, I think out of all the ones we've seen revealed so far, Jude's character and Brutus are going to be the really hot ones. Potentially Neil being a hot
I
character
think
as well.
so. I might grab that figure early. I'm just thinking like it's going to be potentially tough. But yeah, I am. The one thing I want to say that's interesting about the Brutus figures. Do you remember the book, the Mandalorian Throne Room Boba figure that was like 35, and we were all butthurt,
Yes.
and they didn't even come with that much stuff, and it was a deluxe. I'm surprised this
I
isn't
think
a
I got lucky
deluxe.
and got it for $15 or something like
Yeah,
that. But
they continue with the premium, like really good paint detail. I'm showing it on camera of the blasters with different colors and the way they slide in. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's that they figured out more methods for plastic, but to me, this is what a $25 figure should be with the accessory it
yeah.
comes with, and it's less than that Boba Fett. The Boba Fett's like kind of thicker, maybe, but I don't know. That was, I think, $35 is a cash grab, and they experimented, and it was a bad idea. They couldn't sell as many as they made.
Yeah,
But I
those
think
were
maybe
going
that's
for
why
like
they're
$1 at some stores at like clearance places at some point.
that's maybe why they're taking some of the price down on these. But I think these are really cool. And then it's funny, like I said, I want that updated A New Hope Han. The more, and I've said this, the more I have like the new Cassian figure, these figures in hand, pretty much anything I get from the newer waves, it makes me want to just, they look fine in photos with the older figures, but you're starting to really, the way that when they started improving face scan, there was a real leap where you were like, oh God, like, well, they need to do this with all the figures. This construction, I don't love that they don't have the thigh swivel in the middle anymore, but other than that, this construction on these toys is fantastic. When I look at the two Thrawn figures side by side, you know, the old
Yeah.
one and the new one, you're just like, I love my old figures, but like, they even feel heftier. Like there's like a little more, not like heavy, but like a weight versus the old ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, our sponsor tonight is Zen. I and Liquid Death. But
Tonight's episode
we're gonna get
sponsored by Zen.
we're gonna get sued as hell. Yeah, no, I think that's kind of a cool thing that's going on with that, and it harkens back to those older days. I'll let you
Yeah.
kick it, brother.
No, for sure, man. And first, let me just say, those are sick. I cannot wait to get those and start that line for myself, start collecting those. I've been checking my Walmarts and everything like crazy. They are popping up across the country. Our good friends over at Star Wars Toy Collector have kind of put up a few places already. I think somewhere outside of Atlanta, a few places in Illinois got them already. So be on the lookout. They are hitting shelves. They'll be out there soon. So now, for myself, for two things I am going to be showing off. One's a little bit older. One is also thanks to our friends over at Star Wars Toy Collector. So Target had this insane deal going on for Black Series the other day. I think it was like a week ago. And it was a bunch of Black Series were on sale for I think like $17.95 or something like that. And then there was also the $25 Target Circle coupon, which I got this guy for $13, bro. Which
Oh, great figure. Great. I
Yes.
took so many
Trying not
pictures of that
to
figure when I
get the
got it.
glare on there, but
That's one of those
so
figures
it
I was
is the
surprised how obsessed I was. Yeah, go on.
yeah.
Sorry.
For those of you guys watching or might be listening, it's the Mandalorian privateer from season 3 of the Mandalorian, and honestly, like this is kind of almost like a repaint of the Shriek Hawk, essentially. You know, it's a pretty standard Mandalorian, but I've said it before and I'll say it again. Anything with armor, or like Stormtrooper Mando, anything like that, I am so gonna buy it, man. And as an inbox collector, I'm a bit of a completionist with my stuff. My Mando line is easily my biggest piece in my collection because I got
They
most
make a
of that
billion
one.
of them.
I think it has to be the biggest Black Series collection that they made. Don't quote me on that,
Oh
but
yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
You get Mandalorian in different socks, but everything else is the same. Like it's insane. And I
Yeah,
buy them all.
I absolutely. So, and like I said, it's just a great action figure. The paint on it, it's really good. It's got the West Star pistol blaster and the jetpack. It looks really great, man. I was really excited to get that, and especially for only like $14 or something like that. I was like, that's a freaking steal. Like, I'm so happy I waited on that one.
The West Star Blaster, like the way they look in live action, is so cool. Like it's like the
Yeah.
guy, it's that it like brings the Clone Wars one to life. I love it.
Dude, and honestly, like I think it was the last season of The Mandalorian, they actually like showed like them like working on their blasters, which somebody who is
no.
very familiar with weapons and stuff.
Ahsoka. You saw like
Was
Sabine
yeah, it
loading
was
the charge
Ahsoka,
pack
that's
in.
right, it was
It's
Sabine.
like pulled back. Yeah.
So yeah, I like how they had that, the functionality of it and like, showing it, like that, not just that giving these guys plastic essentially. So, but it was cool. Action figure, great, super excited about it. So, and then my second one, this is actually an older piece. But I actually was talking to a good friend of mine. I'm going to actually talk about some of his stuff here in a couple minutes before we close out the podcast. But we're talking Old Republic stuff because I started our new segment on our podcast, which is going into Star Wars lore, which if you guys have not checked it out yet, please go onto our YouTube page, Sith Happens, Star Wars Podcast, where I'm dropping like lore videos once a week. And we started talking a bunch about the Old Republic, and I was like, you know what, this will be a fun one to show off this week. And it is, if I can not get the glare, my boy Jedi Knight Revan. This is one man that was like, so it's the Galaxy of Heroes edition, which I personally never played that because I think that was like the phone game or something. But I am like less versed in the
play it all the time
stuff than I probably should be. Like it's like Nihilus is my character. We all know that. I know that story like crazy. But this is a fun figure, man. It looks really great. I kind of have it right next to my Darth Revan archive too, so it's really cool just to kind of have them next to each other and everything. And that's kind of a lore video I think I'm going to be doing here soon is like, the life of Revan, so to say, kind of going
so you're going to learn.
That's what part of this is for me to learn. The two I've done already awesome. For our lore videos are ones I'm pretty familiar with. It was the 212th Battalion and Darth Nihilus. This is going to be one I'm excited about. Actually, kind of like dive into because there is so much within Revan's history. It's going to lead into other pieces of Star Wars lore that I'm super excited to do. Honestly, so that one right there,
you know
great
what we
figure.
Gotta do?
What's that?
Sorry, go on. Great figure. I said, you know what we got to do? The Home 1 class ships. I watched a whole video on them the other day. I don't want to steal somebody's skis that did it, but dude, nuts. But great figure. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
You're good, bro. But yeah, like I am very excited to do that. Tons of history behind that one character, honestly, and I can't wait to dive into that. So, but anyways, like I said, I was talking to my buddy Josh about that. So we're done. Collector's Corner wrapped up for those of you who are wondering, but I wanted to put it out there from my buddy who runs Gory Comics, which you can find him on Instagram at Gory Comics, GORYCOMICS. And they just dropped the first shirt we're going to get for any type of skeleton crew. I'll put the picture up on the podcast so you guys can check it out, but it's his take on Neil. So I just ordered it the other day. I actually am stoked to get this. I'm wearing it, of course, for our podcast and for the night that Skeleton Crew drops. So go check him out on there. It's a great looking shirt, and he's got tons of other products on there as well. All of his stuff is really great. I wear it all the time, so please check that out. And Matt, I think that wraps us up, homie.
I do, brother. I do. Fun one,
man. Well,
we thought we weren't gonna have enough to talk about, but we always do.
This one went on for a little bit longer than I thought it would. I'll say that much.
Me too.
But for everybody listening and watching right now, we just want to take a moment and say thank you guys for joining us today. We really appreciate you guys kind of joining in and listen to a couple of nerds just banter back and forth like a couple of old women, because this is my brother here. I love him to death. But if you guys want to find more of our pages, you can check us out on Instagram at Sith Happens _Star Wars Podcast, which will have the link tree to all of our various links: YouTube, Amazon Music, Spotify, you name it, we're on there. So please go check that out and give us a follow. And Matty, my boy, sign us off, brother.
First of all, I think of us as the two old guys from the Muppets and the Rafters, but old ladies is fine. You know
what? That's a good one.
All I'll say is I am Matty Ice to my dear friend Eric, otherwise known as Black Series Daily Desk on Instagram, and may the Force be with you always.
And I am Eric the Dadalorian. You can check me out on Instagram at _Dadalorian_. This is the way.